I am bewildered by how Israel gets away with imposing itself on another group of people, namely the Palestinians, in a way which is against the law, against international law, in fact, and which is ignored primarily by the West. Most of us, or reasonable people, would object to what the Russians are doing in Ukraine, that we see that as aggressive. It's taking over the land of another country, and all of us would object greatly to what they're doing. It is destructive. It is, again, against international law. But what Israel is doing is the same. Now, I guess we could argue that the West Bank, even though it is supposed to be Palestinian land, as was Gaza, is being taken over by the Israelis, and the Israelis are making further inroads into the West Bank. And while they're doing that, most of us sit back and sort of throw our hands up and say, well, we don't care. Is that because, and I'm curious as to whether that's because we just don't care about Palestinian people, or we just don't care about people generally. We care about what's happening in Ukraine. Billions of dollars is being spent trying to defend that country from Russia. But nothing is ever said, and tell me if I'm drawing an inappropriate line here, but nothing ever seems to be said about what Israel is doing in the West Bank in this instance. I'm going to highlight some issues around that Laura Tingle raised on the ABC recently, or today actually. So I want to talk about that because I don't understand why it is that we don't object with the same velocity, if you like, as what we do with regard to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, I guess we could see them two differently because maybe it isn't an invasion in the strictest sense of the words in terms of Palestinian territory on the West Bank, but it kind of is. And the world, and Australia in particular, I guess in this instance, turns a blind eye to what's happening on the West Bank. And we should not do that. We should be raising an alert as to what the Israeli government is doing. But because of the strength of the right-wing Jewish lobby, not all of them, but the right-wing Jewish lobby in particular, we tend to be influenced by what they say, the amount of money that they might provide to all governments, all shades of government, and that we must understand that what Israel is doing is as atrocious as what the Russians are doing in Ukraine. And we must make a stand, all of us, against a powerful country taking over and influencing and eradicating a group of people such as the Palestinians. I'm going to take us to an article now by Laura Tingle, whereby she talks about the tightening grip over West Bank. And this is happening while Herzog is visiting Australia. And it's important to understand, I think, that there are people such as Laura who are raising this particular issue. And it's one which we all should be considering given Herzog's visit to Australia at the moment. Even Israel President Isaac Herzog was accusing the thousands of Sydney demonstrators protesting this visit on Monday of wanting to delegitimise the existence of the world's only Jewish state. The Israeli government was taking concrete action in the West Bank designed to continue to kill the idea of a Palestinian state. And we must remember that the Albanese government has made it quite clear that a two-state solution is our policy, is what we want to see. Yet, on the other hand, we have Israel right at this moment, right as we speak, influencing and taking over the West Bank in order to eradicate the country of Palestinian people. In doing so, Herzog just made life much more difficult for the Albanese government, which last September belatedly turned its stated support for a two-state solution in the Middle East into recognition of the state of Palestine. Much of the focus on the distressing and violent scenes in Sydney on Monday centred on just where the blame lay between the police and protesters for the scenes that ricocheted around the world on social media, including, I hasten to add, Al Jazeera and CNN and a lot of other international news networks. Men engaged in evening prayer appeared to be yanked away by police, and an officer appeared to repeatedly punch a protester who had his hands in the air. This was the physical manifestation of some of the division that we have seen with Herzog's visit. Instead of simply the community healing that Albanese had said he hoped would occur when the Israeli head of state came here in support of the Jewish community, which he said it felt heard when the invitation was issued. Now, there are some scenes here of the abuse that is quite evident at the protest. Now, after the initial horror over events in Israel on October the 7th, 2023, in which 1,219 people were killed, outrage grew over the Israeli government's retaliatory action over 2.5 years in Gaza, which left an estimated 70,000 dead and Israel facing a charge of genocide. Brought by South Africa in the International Court of Justice, Israel denies the accusation of genocide. Then came the anti-Semitic shooting assault on a Hanukkah celebration on Bondi Beach. All these events have now left wide open the question of where Australia's policy goes next in such a febrile political environment. Herzog, who a UN Special Commission of Inquiry found made comments which incited the commission of genocide, an allegation he denies, said on Monday that what takes place at demonstrations like the ones seen around the country in the past 48 hours amounts to efforts to undermine and legitimise Israel's existence, which contradicts the spirit of Australia's long alliance with the country. The Commission report is not legally binding. But what is happening in Gaza has put an intense focus on the actions of Israel. Israel continues to dismiss criticisms as either being anti-Semitic or failing to understand the state's need to defend itself. Now, in the West Bank, one's got to ask, what is it that they're defending? They're defending nothing. The Palestinians are powerless to fight back. In essence, there's a desire amongst the Israeli community in order to take over land which they believe is rightfully theirs, namely the land held currently by the Palestinians in the West Bank. But Australia does nothing. Australia says nothing. Australia invites the head of their state to this country so that we can, we can suck up to, so that we can express our admiration for a country which doesn't deserve any sense of positive accolade whatsoever. Israel is a stain on the Middle East. Israel is a country which is hell-bent on genocidal behaviour designed to eradicate the world of Palestinian people. It is who they are, yet we invite their head of state to this country to, in a sense, placate the terrible things that they're doing in Gaza and on the West Bank. We need to find a way to say enough is enough. The government hasn't got the guts or the determination to be able to say to Herzog, what your government is doing is wrong. And it appalls me that a Labor government, even though they've decided that they're going to recognise Palestine and they want a two-state solution, they're making no effort whatsoever to confront the Israeli government over their behaviour and the impact and the killing, or the impact that it has on the Palestinian people, and particularly the killing of people in Gaza. It revolts me to think that the Australian government is so powerless and gutless to make a stand against this horrible, horrible government. And that we invite Herzog here and we dine with him and we meet with him and we probably say things to him that most of us would find horrifying, about how wonderful Israel is, about how important the Jewish state is, how important Jewish people are. And they are important, but we must recognise that the impact that the Jewish right-wing community have on this government is appalling, and we must do something about it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to ring the bell for notifications. Should we have made a further stand against this horrible, horrible person, Herzog? And should we say more, do more, protest more against this horrible, horrible government? Let me know.